Florida Blue Apple Real Estate Study Guide Flashka, 68 questions with explained answers. Flashcard 1. Term. In which type of community is there a governing body responsible for providing community development services? Definition. CDD. Flashcard 2. Term. Which of the following is the formula for deriving the tax base of a jurisdiction? Definition. The total of all assessed values minus exemptions. Flashcard 3. Term. When do Florida countless send out property tax bills to homeowners? Definition. In late October of each year. Flashcard 4. Term. A type of agency relationship that is illegal in Florida is. Definition. Dual agency. Flashcard 5. Term. An owner suddenly pulls a property off the market after hearing from the agent on the phone that the agent had received a full price offer from a minority party. The agent then informs the offeror that the home has been removed from the market and is unavailable. Which party or parties, if any, have violated fair housing laws? Definition. Both owner and agent. Flashcard 6. Term. If a licensee does not agree with a final hearing order, the licensee may file an appeal within blank days of receiving the order. Definition. 30 days. Flashcard 7. Term. Florida disclosure requirements apply to. Definition. Unimproved residential property to be used for 4 or fewer units. Flashcard 8. Term. A government entity takes title to a leased property by way of eminent domain. What happens to the lease? Definition. It is extinguished. Flashcard 9. Term. A sales transaction on rental property closes on December 16. The landlord received the December rent of $713 on December 1. Assuming the closing day is the seller's and that the 365-day method is used for prorating, which of the following entries would appear on the settlement statement? Definition. Debit seller $345. Flashcard 10. Term. A broker responsible for handling a trust account is violating the law by. Definition. Depositing an earnest money check in a personal account. Flashcard 11. Term. An important characteristic of a promissory note is that. Definition. It is assignable. Flashcard 12. Term. An agent obtains a listing which ensures compensation for procuring a customer, provided the agent is the procuring cause. This agent has entered into an. Definition. Open listing. Flashcard 13. Term. Buyers and sellers rely on escrow accounts in order to. Definition. Allow a third-party fiduciary to handle the funds. Flashcard 14. Term. The amount of a real estate brokerage commission is determined by. Definition. Negotiation with the client. Flashcard 15. Term. A sales associate or broker associate must notify the FREC of a change of employing broker within blank of the change. Definition. 10 days. Flashcard 16. Term. A lender is charging 2.75 points on a $240,000 loan. How much money must the borrower pay for points? Definition. $6,600. Flashcard 17. Term. A business owner insists on a price for his enterprise that exceeds the value of the tangible assets, claiming that it is a well-known family business with a loyal clientele. The excess value is known as. Definition. Goodwill. Flashcard 18. Term. To derive value using the income capitalization approach, one must. Definition. Divide the capitalization rate into net income. Flashcard 19. Term. RESPA requires specific closing procedures whenever. Definition. The loan is to be sold to the FNMA. Flashcard 20. Term. Title records of a property reveal several recorded liens, a 1-year-old judgment lien, a mechanic's lien dating from 2 years ago, a special assessment tax lien recorded last month, and a first mortgage lien recorded 5 years ago. In case of a foreclosure, which of these liens will be paid first? Definition. Special assessment tax lien. Flashcard 21. Term. Real estate can be defined as. Definition. Land and everything permanently attached to it. Flashcard 22. Term. The Village of Parish has an annual budget requirement of $20 million to be funded by property taxes. Assessed valuations are $400 million and exemptions total $25 million. What must the tax rate be to finance the budget? Definition. 0.0533. Flashcard 23. Term. Which of the following actions by a Florida real estate licensee would violate a federal or Florida telemarketing law? Definition. Calling a potential client while blocking caller ID. Flashcard 24. Term. A shop was originally built in a commercial zone. The zone has since been changed to a residential zone. Zoning authorities permit the use, most likely as. Definition. Illegal nonconforming use. Flashcard 25. Term. An office building has a potential income of $500,000 and vacancy of 10%. Its cash paid bills total $30,000 and annual depreciation is $5,000. Payments on the loan total $100,000. What is the property's pre-tax cash flow? Definition. $50,000. Flashcard 26. Term. Which of the following items are paid in arrears? Definition. Taxes and interest. Flashcard 27. Term. One aim of the statute of frauds is to, definition, require certain conveyances to be in writing. Flashcard 28. Term. A suburb has a growing need for single-family housing, but the land available for new construction is running low. In this case, it is likely that the price of existing homes, definition, will increase. Flashcard 29. Term. A distinct feature of a joint tenancy is that joint tenants, definition, cannot will their interest to a party outside the tenancy. Flashcard 30. Term. What is included in the bundle of rights inherent in ownership? Definition. To possess. Flashcard 31. Term. Which of the following is generally true of a real estate investment? Definition. The greater the return, the greater the risk. Flashcard 32. Term. There are two adjoining properties. An easement allows property A to use the access road that belongs to property B. In this situation, property B is said to be what in relation to property A? Definition. Servient estate. Flashcard 33. Term. Which of the following persons selling a timeshare must hold a real estate license? Definition. Any person being paid a commission to sell the timeshare. Flashcard 34. Term. The Brokerage Relationship Disclosure Act applies to transactions involving all the following property types except, definition, commercial properties. Flashcard 35. Term. An owner obtains a loan and gives the mortgagee a mortgage on the property as collateral. The mortgagor/owner retains title to the property, and the mortgagee records a lien. This is an example of, definition, hypothecation. Flashcard 36. Term. An example of conversion is, definition, spending a customer deposit on a surety bond for the agency. Flashcard 37. Term. An owner of a lakefront property tells a fisherman that he cannot fish in a boat within 50 feet of the owner's shoreline. The fisherman protests that the owner cannot prevent him. Who is correct? Definition. The fisherman is correct because the water and the land underlying it are public property. Flashcard 38. Term. A parcel is described as the SW1/4 of the N1/2 of the E1/2 of Section 14. What is the acreage? Definition. 40 acres. Flashcard 39. Term. The chain of title to a property refers to which of the following? Definition. A chronology of successive owners of record. Flashcard 40. Term. The purpose of a formal legal description of a property is to, definition, locate and identify the property reliably. Flashcard 41. Term. A canal dredging project is to cost $100,000. There are 40 properties along the canal, and 40 others across the street from the canal. The total canal footage to be dredged is 2,500 feet. How much will the assessment be for a 150-foot property on the canal? Definition. 6,000. Flashcard 42. Term. The capital gain on sale of an investment is computed as, definition, net sales proceeds minus adjusted basis. Flashcard 43. Term. What entity is authorized to impose criminal penalties? Definition. Criminal courts. Flashcard 44. Term. The price that a willing, informed, and unpressured seller and buyer agree upon for a property, assuming a cash price and reasonable exposure of the property to the market, describes which of the following concepts of value? Definition. Market value. Flashcard 45. Term. A buyer agrees to all terms of a seller's offer and sends notice of acceptance back to the seller. The seller now tells the buyer the deal is off because he has learned that the home was underpriced. Which of the following is true? Definition. The buyer has a binding contract. Flashcard 46. Term. A property is purchased for $200,000. Improvements account for 75% of the value. Given a 39-year depreciation term, what is the annual depreciation expense? Definition. $3,846. Flashcard 47. Term. Dower can best be defined as, definition, a wife's life estate interest in her husband's property. Flashcard 48. Term. In the contracting process, a licensee must be careful to avoid, definition, drafting a contract illegally. Flashcard 49. Term. Interests in a condominium differ from those in a cooperative, because, definition, the cooperative owner owns stock in the cooperative association, whereas the condominium owner simply owns real estate. Flashcard 50. Term. Which of the following entities may not register as a brokerage? Definition. Joint venture. Flashcard 51. Term. An office building rents for $600,000 has expenses of $400,000 and a cash flow of $100,000. The prevailing gross rent multiplier is 8. Using the GRM, what is the value of the building? Definition. $4,800,000. Flashcard 52. Term. A person wishes to convey any and all interests in a property to another with full assurances against encumbrances, liens, or any other title defects on the property. This party would most likely use which of the following types of deed? Definition: a general warranty deed. Flashcard 53. Term: a $250,000 interest-only loan carries a 7% rate. Monthly payments are. Definition: $1,458. Flashcard 54. Term: 3 leading agencies charge identical commission rates for brokering office properties in Phoenix. Which of the following is true? Definition: this is a perfectly legitimate business practice. Flashcard 55. Term: the formula for return on equity is. Definition: cash flow divided by equity. Flashcard 56. Term: when an item is prorated between buyer and seller on a settlement statement, the closing officer must. Definition: debit one party and credit the other. Flashcard 57. Term: the sending of unsolicited commercial email to cell phones is banned by the. Definition: Can-Spam Act. Flashcard 58. Term: a lender may terminate foreclosure proceedings if the defaulting borrower executes. Definition: a deed in lieu of foreclosure. Flashcard 59. Term: which of the following best describes the person who is the procuring cause of a transaction sale? Definition: the person who started a series of events that led to a sale. Flashcard 60. Term: a primary objective of residential zoning is. Definition: promote the value and planned land use of a neighborhood. Flashcard 61. Term: when offering a representation of value, the broker may not. Definition: represent his own opinion as an appraisal. Flashcard 62. Term: an owner completes a contract to sell her property. Before closing, the seller runs into financial trouble and assigns the contract to her principal creditor. The buyer cries foul, fearing the property will be lost. Which of the following is true? Definition: the sale contract remains valid. Flashcard 63. Term: a landlord refuses to rent to a single pregnant woman. The woman feels there has been illegal discrimination. How long does she have to file a complaint with the Florida Commission of Human Relations? Definition: she has 1 year from the date of the alleged discrimination. Flashcard 64. Term: the Florida Residential Landlord and Tenant Act fundamentally attempts to. Definition: prevent the use of unfair lease provisions. Flashcard 65. Term: negative amortization of a loan occurs whenever. Definition: a payment does not pay the full amount of interest owed. Flashcard 66. Term: the purpose of a homestead tax exemption is. Definition: to offer tax abatement on a principal residence. Flashcard 67. Term: a landlord promises to compensate a broker for procuring a tenant, provided the landlord's brother decides not to rent the property within a month. This would be an example of an. Definition: exclusive agency agreement. Flashcard 68. Term: the demand for homes in a market is best expressed in terms of. Definition: number of households seeking housing.